On today's episode of the Everyday Leader podcast, we have as a guest Tiffany Rosenbaum. We're so excited to bring her to you as she tells her story, how both herself and her husband went from moving on a whim, starting a business, living for months on food storage, to building really a successful real estate business and empire, in fact, multiple businesses. And she has a lot of lessons she shares with today about finding mentors, building yourself as a leader, growing teams, creating good culture, and really just a great listen. We're thankful for her and excited to share the lessons she's learned today.
Welcome to the Everyday Leader podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Welcome to today's episode of the Everyday Leader podcast. We are super excited. You get just Drew today. I'm here with Tiffany Rosenbaum. She owns multiple businesses. She's a successful entrepreneur. And I'm going to let her share a little bit about that. We're going to talk about what she's learned along the way and her beliefs about leadership. So great to be with you again.
Thank you for having me, Drew. I'm actually really excited because I love the name leader in it because, to be an entrepreneur, you have to, a lot of entrepreneurs start, but they don't know how to be a true leader. And they have to learn how to be that leader. So I love that name because it's a learning process and you go through it. I started my entrepreneurial journey way back in 2010.
2010.
Yeah. My husband came to me in college and was like, I want to start a business. And I was going to be that supportive wife. And I was like, okay. But my dad was an entrepreneur. Well, his great-grandfather was. And so I kind of knew what that meant. And I was like, you sure? I was like all for it. But at the same time, when someone hasn't come from the entrepreneurship and you hear a lot of things from social media, I'm like, do you know what that entails? If it's not working, you work harder. There's no out.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay. And I had a very strong impression one night. I'm a God-fearing person, that we were moving to Arizona. And what was interesting about that, I told my husband before we got married, I would not move to Arizona. God has a very sense of humor.
Is he from Arizona?
He's from Arizona. He's from Gilbert. So I told him I'd never move. And then one night I was getting ready for bed and clear as day, you're moving to Arizona. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I asked my husband, I said, how bad do you want to start a business? And he said, I really want to start a business. I said, oh, okay, we're moving to Arizona. He about dropped to the ground with a chin on the ground. I mean, just like, what?
Yeah.
And so as fast as we moved to Arizona, it was about as fast as money stopped. Because the business that we were going to start up, it just didn't take off real well. It was in 2009, though. And in 2009 was a rough year for people. And so when we got to Arizona, we had no money. We ended up on food storage. If you know what food storage is, but there's no food in the fridge, no heat in my home. And I remember one day I was in my living room, I was standing there and I was holding my son with like 3 layers of jackets because it was the coldest winter and it was 50 degrees in our home. And we had a space heater to try to keep him warm. And I just looked at him, I said, I promise, just hold on, we'll get through this. And long story short, we had an opportunity to get into real estate through a learning process, and we started to invest into real estate. We found someone to loan to us by grace of God, and which makes no sense to this day because we had no money. But we got into real estate and realized there was a gap in the market. Property management companies did not know how to analyze properties or help investors to build their wealth. And so we started Rosenbaum Real Estate Group. And that was the first company. And then we realized we needed other companies to facilitate to this company. So that's kind of how we started our journey. A lot of roller coasters, ups and downs, but I wouldn't take it back. I would redo the food storage if I had to.
That's awesome. So you said just a second ago, you didn't have any money and you found an investor. Talk a little bit about that, because I think sometimes a lot of people think you've got to have money to get started in business, or you've got to have some big in with somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like that was the case for you guys.
So my dad came into Arizona, and he didn't realize how bad the situation was. And he was like, which he didn't take my struggles. And to this day, people are like, your dad didn't help you out? He supported me, but he didn't take me out of my struggle. But he looked at me while he was at the house, and he said, Tiff, I don't care what you do. You got to figure out how to get into real estate. I know real estate can change your life. And it was like a gun to my heart, though, because I'm like, I have no money. I can't feed my son, and you're like wanting me to buy $500,000 worth of properties?
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. So he left, and then about 2 days later, we had friends over. We didn't give him food because we had none. But we were playing games, and all of a sudden he was like, yeah, real estate. I help people get into real estate. And I was like that friend that was that sponge, like, tell me everything. Tell me anything. What can I do? And then he turned to me and said, you got to find someone to loan to you. And I'm like, who's going to loan to me when I have no money? I mean, come on. It was that mindset. There's no way.
Yeah.
And so about a month later, we found a mentor that would help us learn how to analyze properties. And so this wasn't giving me money. This wasn't helping me get into real estate, but to analyze properties. And I think that's the biggest issues with people that get into real estate. They don't know how to analyze properties.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd analyze properties, and he'd come, no, it's not good enough. I'd analyze, no, it's not good enough. If you remember 2009, they couldn't pay you enough to take their property, so any property was good. But what I didn't realize, he was teaching me a discipline that it doesn't matter. You walk away if the deal's not good. Yeah. And so to this day, I can say I've never lost money in real estate because I learned that discipline.
That's amazing.
And so about 6 months into it, after I had done like 150, I mean, just over and over, no. He said, I think you're ready. And I was like, ready for what? A peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I'd love one. And he said, no, I think you're ready. I'll loan to you. And I was like,
this mentor?
Yeah. And I was like, yes, please. And he said, but if you don't pay me back, I'll never do business with you again. And it was scary because that step where you have to go 2 feet in, there is no keeping 1 foot out.
Right.
And so I remember going to the living room with my husband and just crying and going, do we take this opportunity? Do we not? We don't know what we're doing either. We're still new. And so we decided to jump full force in, and it was the best decision we ever made. And we've never been late on a loan. We've never,
awesome.
We don't default. I don't care what I have to do. I'll go without food. I've done it before. But that relationship was huge.
Yeah.
And the mentorship that he gave me.
How did that mentorship start? I mean, a lot of times I know mentorship is going out and paying for somebody. Like,
No.
You didn't have any money. Like, how did that come?
Just talking to a lot of people. And talking real estate and just being humble. I think a lot of times we are scared to show our true colors and how much we're struggling.
Yeah.
Because in business, we want to show that everything's great.
Right.
We want to show, I'm doing great. There's no problems here, right? Oh my gosh, if you're in business, there's a problem somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it was going through and talking to people, and then someone literally saying, look, I'll help you analyze properties. And being patient enough to get no over and over again, to realize that he was teaching me something. And then when he realized I was ready, then he was like, okay, I think you're ready. And it was talking to everybody. And I think mentorship is 100% important. But if you don't have money, I don't think you go into debt for it. I really don't. I think what you do is you find someone that's willing to mentor you. And a lot of times you can do back-end deals like, look, mentor me, and whatever I get, I'll give you a percentage. Right. There's different ways to structure things. Yeah. Because I'm very much risk averse when it comes into debt. Unless it's bringing me money, I'm not going to debt for it, So, but I think mentorship is like the most important thing. If you wanna lessen your time in learning, get a mentor that knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible advice, and I guess what might you say to our listener that's looking for a mentor? How do you decide this is someone I should mentor with, or this is someone I should?
I like that question a lot, Drew, a whole lot. The reason why is because you go on social media and everybody wants to be a mentor or a coach today, right? Right. And the problem is, if you hire someone just because they're on social media, you do not know if they're successful or they can get you to where you want to be. Right. And so it needs to truly be an interview. Like, you should be interviewing them, and they should be interviewing you. And you should be asking hard questions, like, what have you done? Where have you gone? Can you get me to my goals? Right. And if the answer is no, that's okay. Get someone else, interview someone else. But today's notion is just hire any mentor and they
Right.
can get you there. And that's not the truth. You need to find someone that's done exactly what you have done. And I'm not going to be a fit for everybody, because if you're wanting to do a SaaS company and you need someone that understands technology, sorry, that's not me. I hire people for that. You know, I understand the business, but at the same time, I don't understand the strategic part of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think there's sometimes a difference between like a mentor and coach, consultant. Those all can be a little bit different things, right? Where maybe a coach is someone that doesn't have to be an expert in what you're doing and they help you, where a consultant might be, hey, I'm hiring you because you have this skill set.
Yes.
You've done this before.
100%. Like one of my coaches that I have on my board, because I set up a board instead of just an individual coach. Like she is not one that has been inside my business, but she takes the minds of entrepreneurs and elevates them in a way that can get them to the next level, like 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. And so, yes, it just, if they haven't been in the business, then you need to see their pedigree of what they've done with someone else. Like, don't just take someone's word for it. I hate to say that. You would hope you'd be able to trust anybody, but in reality, you need to see a pedigree chart. You need to see what they've done.
Yeah. So you now own multiple businesses, multiple employees. What have you learned about leading people as part of all that? What lessons of leadership have come and along the way?
Oh, Drew, let's just talk about the failures.
Those are fun.
Well, that's why I brought up, like, I wasn't a true leader when I first started. I struggled with that aspect of it because I was more like KPIs, numbers. It's like you come in the business, I'm hiring you, just do a dang job, right?
Right.
Just get it done. And I left the heart out of it. And I read Dream Manager, but some of the major mistakes I made was in hiring. Like, hey, your resume says you can do this. Just sit in the seat. You can do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not how it goes. I hired one of the people I hired. I had a great culture going, and I needed an accountant really bad because I came home and my CFO level accountant was like, hey, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. He was helping multiple companies at the same time. So in my infancy, I was able to afford him because he was helping multiple. And so when he gave me his 2-week notice, I almost died because I was like, there's no way I can afford someone like this. And so I needed someone within 2 weeks. Well, you can't train someone, hire someone, and have someone up to going in 2 weeks. But my naiveness, I was like, oh, yes, I can. And so I hired someone, didn't do all what I should have done. And then the moment they came into my business, they destroyed my culture.
Oh, no.
And I became a revolving door. And so I had to fire the person, start all over. But I realized the hiring process had to change after that. It had to be a lot more seeing the person in different aspects. Not just seeing them once, but seeing them 4 times, bringing them in, having them talk to the team, learning about them in a way to make sure that it wasn't just a butt in the seat, right? Which I think we've all said, which is not a good thing. But another thing that I learned is it's about the people. The people are the rocket fuel behind the business. And so as much as you care about them, they're going to care about you. If you don't care about them, they're not going to care about your business. And as I learned that, and I read Dream Manager, now anytime I talk to my team members, I'm like, hey, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are your goals? I want to know about them. Because, yes, is this a job for you or is this a career for you? Yeah. And let's talk about it. Let's be open about it. Not a big deal.
Yeah. It's okay for it to be a job.
It's okay. Because then they'll also let me know that maybe you want to stay in this position and not grow. You know how many times that entrepreneurs, maybe your viewers have never done this before, but you hire someone, they're a beginner in something, but you're like, hey, I can train them to this point, or I can push them up to this point, or I can push them here. And in reality, they didn't want that. So then you lose them in the same instance. I mean, I did that way too many times. But it's a learning process. And I would say, like, that's the number one thing entrepreneurs have to do is learn how to be a good leader if they want to lead a team to elevate a company.
Yeah. No, I really love what you said about you have to care about your employee if you want them to care about your business.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Could you talk a little more about that or just how you've seen that come to fruition?
Yeah, that has been a really, Actually, I would say it's been a difficult thing for me to come to. Because for the longest time, I'm like, it's a business. It's just facts. It's just this. But people are psychology. There's feeling behind it. Now, a decision should be made without feeling, but the people you deal with have to be done with feeling, you know? And so I came about it because I realized I wasn't having longevity with my employees, with my team members. And I realized that because I'd have turnover, and I'm like, dude, it's just numbers. They weren't doing the job. And then I realized I read Dream Manager, and I saw statistics, and I researched what statistics can prove that if I care more, I know, that they'll care more. And so I did a lot of research, and if you've read the Starbucks experience, all that, how much money they put into their employees, their training, it showed me that the more you care, they'll care.
Yeah.
Because they want to know that they're not just a number. And sometimes entrepreneurs put a number on their team members. It's true. And that's not what it is. It's how much can I impact this person's life?
Yeah.
How much can I change their lives? And so that's what we talk about a lot now in my companies is we talk about, we don't just impact our team members' lives. We impact anybody we touch. And how can we do more?
Yeah, what I love about all that too is I think in today's world, you have to have a dream or a vision that's big enough for everyone in your organization to fit within. And if they don't see themselves in it, people aren't looking to work at a job for 40, 50 years anymore and get a retirement, it seems like it. I mean, not that there aren't, and if it's okay if someone does. And yeah, if you don't have that, if you don't know their vision, you don't know if they're going to fit within the vision you have as a leader. So
no, it's true. People want meaning. Before COVID, it was a little bit more like, hey, it's just this what it is. After COVID, things changed like a 180. It was like experience, meaning. I want more. I want to know that I'm impacting something.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we've done and we've changed is every other month we do a service project as a team.
Oh, cool.
And then every other month, other than those months, we do an activity.
Yeah.
And to build the bond of the team members. Because I think that's really important. It's like sports teams have it perfect.
Yeah.
Because they put the people in the right spot, but then they also do a lot of bonding through workouts, through travel, through other things to make sure they know where that person's going to be on the court. There's a bond. And so companies that understand that aspect, they do really well.
Yeah. I want to ask you, change kind of gears for a second, and ask you another question because I think this is interesting. You and your husband work together.
Yes.
It seems like most couples can't or choose not to do that. Like, how's that worked? Like, how's that? I mean, how have you guys been able to build successful businesses together?
At first, I would say it was a little difficult because we didn't understand how to separate lines, and we were all over each other in the lines, or in operations or sales or whatever. And so we had to really sit down and say, this is your line, this is my line. And don't come in my line, you come in yours. But also it's more about being able to split it. Like when we first started, we'd talk business till 10 p.m. Like we'd talk business all night long. And then we realized we were becoming more business partners than spouses. And so we realized, okay, we need to cut off sometimes. And then we need to make sure that when we disagree at business, we don't bring that home.
Right.
And then one other thing we do is we make sure we get away. We travel to exotic places. I started this in 2016 when we didn't have a lot of money, but we were coming into it. I rented a car on Turo, an exotic car, and then I booked a hotel for a weekend. And he didn't know about it. I surprised him.
Yeah.
And the light on his face changed as soon as I brought that, I brought the car home and stuff. Because all of a sudden, we were dating again. I think people that work together forget to date. Yeah. And you have to have both. You can't just do one of that. If you stop dating, you're going to get a divorce. Yeah. The entrepreneurship and the divorces that happen in entrepreneurship are so much greater than just being married and the divorce rate. So you gotta really work at it. I would say he is the rock behind both of us. He really is. He's very loyal and he works really hard on our relationship when I'm hard-headed. We're both A personalities. So when he puts his foot down and I put my foot down, we can hit heads. But we've realized we have to date. So mandatory once a week date for us.
Awesome.
It's just mandatory. And that's how we do it.
That's such good advice, whether you're a business with your spouse or not. So
yeah, because think about it. When you pay bills, is it sexy? No. When you parent, is it sexy? No. When you're cleaning the house, is it sexy? No. But when you're dating and going somewhere exotic, or even if you don't have money and you go do a picnic together in a park, that becomes sexy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you fall in love with the person again. We have to learn that we have to fall in love with our spouse again and again and again, because we change over time.
Right.
So it's important.
Yeah, you're probably not the same person you were when you guys first moved to Arizona.
No. I mean, I'm still driven, but at the same time, no, we all change, we all develop, and that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, because we change, we have to come together again, over and over again.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Talk about a couple of your other businesses and what you're doing. Like I said, it's the big things, the property management. What else do you do?
Rosenbaum Realty Group is a long-term property management company. Repair Masters is our maintenance company / remodeling company. We have a Stunning Stays company, which is short-term / midterm rentals. We have a gym down in Thatcher.
Right.
And then I do consulting / coaching for businesses. But I only bring on at tops for people at a time.
Awesome.
So.
And it sounds like a lot of those things came out of the first business.
Yeah. I mean, we did open up Utah this year, Sundogs Property Solutions. So, yeah, a lot of them, it was kind of like a roadmap. Like all these things needed to happen. And it was just.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems like, hey, I'm looking at someone who's doing really well and they have multiple businesses. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that we get shiny object syndrome. We want to chase multiple things. And did this happen over time, or did you start all of these all at once?
No, over time. And I think what you said is imperative to hear again. A lot of time entrepreneurs go, oh, shiny object, go here. And in reality, people will talk about having multiple things, but 9 times out of 10, it took years.
Right.
It's not one day doing 10 things, because if you split your time, you're splitting your success.
Yeah.
But if you start one and you get that one successful to run, then start another one. That's different. But entrepreneurs do struggle to have shiny object syndrome, and I have to be careful of that. I have to be like, is this beneficial? What is this going to add, or is this going to detract?
Yeah.
And that's how we make decisions, because sometimes it can detract, and that's not what we want.
Yeah. I guess at what point did you realize, okay, we can open another, or it's time to go down and try something new?
Yeah.
Maybe there's been some good and bad with some of that. But.
Yeah. So Rosenbaum Realty Group started, and Repair Masters started really soon after it, because I realized those two come hand in hand.
Right.
And then Stunning Stays didn't start until actually Thatcher started before. And that was just an investment deal that it just came about. And then Stunning Stays didn't start except for a couple years ago. And then Sundogs started this year. So it's like a 10-year span, 14-year span.
So maybe talk too about having multiple businesses, what you've learned about leadership or having leaders inside these different organizations and how that's happened.
Yeah. I would say I thought that I could put people in seats and they would see the vision. Mm-hmm. As a leader, I had to realize my vision had to be spoken all the time, like where I felt like a broken record.
Yeah.
And then I had to have a leadership team underneath me so that only a few people reported to me, up to 6 or 7, and then people reported to them, because people can only have so many people report to them at a time. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So that's the only reason why I'm able to do so many businesses, because we have a team.
Yeah.
Without the team, there's no way. I'd be splitting my time hairs trying to figure out how to get it all done. There's no way. It would be chaos.
Yeah.
And so the team, I always say the team is the rocket fuel behind the businesses. And hiring, training, onboarding correctly, it will determine what kind of team you can build.
Yeah. No, I love what you said a second ago about now I'm drawing a blank. What was it? There was something you said I loved.
You're good.
A lot of it. But Oh, when you said that you had to repeat that over and over again, I think sometimes a business or an organization or somebody has this great idea or this vision for their company, and they say it once and they think it's just going to sink in and everybody's going to get it. Like, I found that's not the case. Like, can you talk a little more about that, or why you've had, I think you said you're a broken record a little bit. Like, why have you had to do that? Like, what do you think?
Well, psychology says, like, if you don't repeat something 7 times at minimum, no one's hearing it.
Yeah.
So, and then in sales, you're supposed to follow up with someone at least 13 times if you want the sell. So think about that. And then I would, for your viewers, entrepreneurs, I would go to your team and just ask them, hey, do you know what our vision is? If they can't repeat it to you,
right,
then we haven't said it enough.
Yeah.
Same thing. Core values. Can you go to your team and say, hey, do you know what the core values are off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Like, we repeat those every week minimum.
Yeah.
Every week. My number 2 repeats them on our Zoom call. And the team repeats them. And sometimes they're like, we do this all the time. I'm like, yeah, if you don't have it memorized, we're doing it again.
Yeah.
And then our mission statement. Like, can you go to your team and say, hey, what's our mission statement? And can they repeat it verbatim?
Yeah.
And believe in it, though. And then the next level is your clients. Do they know your vision? Do they know your core values? Can they repeat them because they know them without a doubt? And so that's one thing we've started is we have a presentation where our vision, our mission, our core values go out to our owners. And our webinar that we do monthly for our owners, we repeat it. Because we want our owners to know this is what we believe. If you don't believe this, then we're not a fit.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So it helps get rid of some people right off the bat.
Yeah. No, that's so good. That's such like, if you're listening to this and you've got a team, like, I challenge you to do exactly what Tiffany just said. Go and ask them, what's our vision? What are our values? And it might be uncomfortable to go and do that.
At first it was. Are you kidding me? I would say, hey, do you know? And they're like, am I in trouble? I'm like, no, you're not. But this tells me I have felt as a leader. And that's okay to look inward and go, I'm doing something wrong. How do we fix it?
Yeah.
That's all it is. And so if team members and owners can't tell you your vision or your mission or your core values, then something's lacking.
Yeah. What is talking about those things done over and over again? Like, why do they need to know it? Like, what happens when everybody knows what the vision is, when they know the core values?
All of a sudden, you start really realizing if people are in the right seat. Because all of a sudden, when y'all say them over and over again, and you start seeing any pushback or anything, you go, oh, what's going on? Which core value is this having issue with?
Yeah.
And so I've had people in the seat where I'm like, we have one of our core values is growth-oriented. And there was an individual that was like, something's not right here. What's going on? And I realized this individual had a issue with core value of growth-oriented because they felt like they were going to be stretched. And I'm like, okay, well, then we're not in the right seat. That's okay. Let's talk about it. Like, what do you see? What do you want? And then I'll come together and say, well, this is what I need. Can we come together or not? If not, let's make a plan to have you walk out and make it a successful plan where you can find something. Right. It doesn't need to be a, hey, you're fired. It needs to be like, hey, what's the plan to make you successful in this and make me successful in this? And then we both win. It's all about win-wins, and I think I totally screwed up at that at the beginning, Drew. Like, I was not a win-win person. Like, I would wait till the last minute. Like, I don't want them to quit on me, so I got to fire him last minute. So I wouldn't tell people. I mean, I did everything wrong. Like, it was bad. But it's fun now because everything is a win-win, and it should be. Should be.
No, that's so good. You've mentioned a couple already, but what books would you recommend to those that want to be a better leader or they're looking to level up? I find a lot of times that one of the best mentors is a book.
Yeah, there's, oh my goodness. Okay, if you haven't read Traction, highly recommend Traction. The EOS Life, highly recommend. The Starbucks Experience, highly recommend because it'll show you how Starbucks actually spends more money on training than marketing. I mean, it's a huge thing. Love that one. Who's Who? Yeah, sorry, I could go on for days. I read Atomic Habits are huge. Yeah. But I read, actually, I don't read. Let me make this clear. It's audibles. I listen to books and I write notes.
Hey, that's okay.
Because I can do it on my run. But you want an education? There should be no reason to listen to podcasts, read books. But what I would say behind that, if you're reading books to read books or listening to podcasts to listen to podcasts, doesn't do anything. Now, if you read a book and you implement 3 things from that book, then it was impactful. If you read to read, it's not. So every book you read, you should be able to implement at least 3 things.
Oh, that's great too. Yeah, no, I just read a book called Indistractable.
Ooh.
And it's about being distracted in a modern world. And to your point, I was like, got to this point where I'm like, you know what? I'm installing all my social media apps. I'm not going to take these lessons and learn them and go as deep as I need to if I don't do that. And so, no, I think it's easy to fall into this trap of just listening to all these great books all the time and feeling like, well, how come nothing's getting better? So
it's the same thing with the conferences. You know, the percentage of people that go to conferences and then come home, they're all motivated, but they come home and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
So anytime I talk to anybody, I'm like, you go to that conference, you better implement a minimum of 3 things before you go to another conference, because otherwise you're just spending money. Now, can conferences be very impactful? Yes. Like the people you meet, the things you can implement. But the problem is people can't just go to conferences to go to conferences. It has to be a way to develop and learn and grow and change.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, and I like that too, because, you know, when I got into real estate to start, it was from reading a book. I took all the action I could and bought my first property and did my first deal. And then it was like, okay, I'm out of money. How do I do this again? You know, I'd used a line of credit on my house. It's like, well, that money's gone. Now I've got to find another way to do this. And it came from joining groups, investing in mentorships. You know, I joined a community that actually my mother and I, we joined it together to start investing in real estate and paid a pretty good price to jump in. And it was, what was awesome is for me, I got all my money back so quick on each of these things I did. And I saw plenty of people who would join not see success. And a lot of times it was the same thing. It was just, they were in it, but they weren't doing anything.
And a lot of times it's because people go to these conferences. Like, I think it's, first of all, it's amazing that you did what you did, because the 1% that you're in that actually did it is amazing. And now your life's changed because of it. The problem is I think people are scared to take that first step, because what if it doesn't work? Well, then why did you go? You know, at the end of the day, the unknown is what's scary, but what's more scary, staying where you're at or trying to figure out the unknown? Yeah. You got to decide. And I've decided a long time ago is that unknown, I get to create the unknown. Yeah. And then I get to create what's in that unknown. Yeah. You know, so. Well,
what I love about your story too, Tiffany, is, I mean, for the listener, that like, we're not saying you have to go pay for something to get started. Like you didn't. You found a mentor that
I had no money.
Willing to work with you. And he said, hey, I'm ready to give you money. Yeah. That's just such an awesome story, and such a great example of, and you said it was what, at least 150 deals you looked at? Like how long of a time frame was that?
It was like 6 months, and it was no over no over no over no, and it got frustrating. I'm not gonna lie. Mm-hmm. I remember this deal. It was by Tempe, and to this day, I'm like, I should have bought the dang deal. But I was told no on it. Yeah. But again, he was teaching me something that was imperative. Because how many people go into a real estate, they're I gotta have it. Yeah. People in 2020 bidding way over. We had deals coming to us every day, and we're like, no, it's not working. Yeah. No. And we walked away, and we were able to walk away because of the fact that I was taught, you walk away. You don't get emotional in this. And it happened the other day. We went, and I was buying a new car. And I sat down at the dealership, and my husband was like, oh, we just want this little bit off. And I looked at the guy, and I said, no. I said, look, you're going to either come down here, or I need to go get my son lunch, da-da-da. I said, Daniel, watch. We're going to walk out, and he's going to run after me. He's like, no, he's not. I'm like, yes, he will. It's a car dealership. They want to sell. So I said, hey, we're going to leave, but maybe we'll be back. Car dealerships know if you leave that car dealership, you're not coming back. So I walked out, and about 2 seconds later, he was at my window. Yeah. Like, come on, come back in. We got this. And I said, well, where'd you come to? And he's like, I came down 15,000. And I'm like, okay. So I said, give me a couple minutes and I'll come talk to you. And I had been calling other dealerships because you get the best deal and the one that's going to give you the best service. And so as we were doing this, he came down another $5,000 or whatever. And then I had another guy call me and goes, look, I'll come this much down. And so I walked over and I said, I appreciate your time, but we're going with this other dealership. he called me back a week later. He's like, did you buy it? Can you come back? What it taught me is you got to be willing to walk away from a deal to get the best deal.
Yeah.
And that's twofold, because when you're dealing with mentors, I believe the opposite. You pay for what you get, you know, but when you're buying a property, an asset, do not get emotional. When you're hiring a mentor, don't get emotional, but you pay for what you get. Yeah. You know, it's a little bit different. I wanted to make a little bit.
No, I love that you pointed that out. In fact, my real estate partner and I went through some courses and training and mentorship, and the guy that taught one of these courses, he talked about finding the deal of the decade. And I love it because in his training, he goes, you know how often I find the deal of the decade? Every single week. And so we've just kind of decided, hey, we're only investing in deals that we feel are the deal of the decade, because when things go wrong, and they do, like, there's still room to make it work and figure something out. And so I just love that. Hey, knowing this is what I'm willing to do, and I'm willing to say no if it doesn't meet.
100%. 100%. Because if you're willing to walk away, then you'll never have the farm taken from you.
Right.
But if you're not willing to walk away and you're willing to risk everything, make sure you're willing to risk everything, because then you might end up like a lot of people were in 2008.
Yeah.
You know, I am just not one that's willing to do that. That's why I can say I never lost money in real estate, and I never will. Well, not gonna lie, never will. But
never.
But it's running numbers and analyzing it in a way where, you know, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, I'm okay.
Yeah. No, I really like that. I'm bummed Tate and Matt couldn't join me today, but I'm also the real estate guy of the three of us, so like I'm super excited. We've kind of gone down this route a little bit. So, well, maybe if once again for a listener who's maybe new or struggling or going through challenges, trying to figure things out, feels like maybe I can't do this. Like, what advice would you give somebody that's maybe where you were 10, 12 years ago, or whenever all that happened? So,
if you're getting started, be willing to work harder than you think you should. And at the end of the day, when you work harder. Because I think you see everything on social media and it's like, oh, it should be easy. You can make $100,000 with no problem. You should be able to do this and that. Whatever you see, don't believe. At the end of the day, it's a grind. Entrepreneurship is a grind if you want to be successful. You can love what you do, and I love what I do, but there were many years that I had to grind and work long hours to make sure this got off the ground. And the second thing I would say is know your numbers. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs don't learn their numbers, and they're working themselves out of business before they ever get started. So know your numbers. How many sales are you making? How many contracts are coming in? You know, what's your conversion rate? How much are you spending on each lead?
Yeah.
All these things are really important, and it takes extra time.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It takes. Finally, I have an audit team that does all that for me. But there was many years that it was like, oh my goodness, the hours I spend just getting the numbers. It's another job.
So with numbers, if someone doesn't have those straight, how do they like, and it's not their strong point, how do they do that? How do they get to know their numbers, or what can they do to figure that out?
Depending on what business you're in.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I hate to say this, but let's say you're in a SaaS company. Go to ChatGPT, say what's the top 5 SaaS KPIs that I need to have in my company. It will tell you. And it will take the data from the top 5 companies to tell you what it needs to be. If you're in sales, you need to know how much you're spending on sales, each lead. Yeah. What's the conversion rate? All these things are really important. Like for me in one of my companies, it's how many properties are we managing? How many owners did we lose? How many owners did we bring on? Because if I don't know that number, am I positive or negative?
Right.
You know? And so all these, there's so many KPIs. Like we have another KPI that's answer rate, like for our phones. Like what's our answer rate? We have to hit at least a 90% answer rate at all times. We also have response time. Now I didn't do this at the beginning, but like learning your numbers, even I remember, so that I felt stupid, and a lot of people trying to learn their numbers feels like I'm doing this wrong. Right. I was in a conference one time very early on, and everybody was talking numbers, and I was like deer in the headlight, like what? So I went up to one of my friends afterwards because he was so nice. His name's Eric Wellington, and I was like, I'm so lost. I'm like, would you help me? He's like, yeah, because he had been in the business for a long time. I'm like, okay, what numbers do I need to know and how do I find them? Because there's mathematical equations behind it.
Right.
And he sat down with me, he told me. So like find someone that you can ask what you feel is stupid, which is not stupid. Everybody's asking the same questions, to be honest. But find the person that help you with that mathematical equation to get the numbers. Because the numbers are going to give you the questions to ask to know where to grow.
Yeah.
And so without the numbers, you can't grow right.
Well, what I feel like a theme that's come up over and over again today, Tiffany, is just go find someone. Like, go find someone. And
yeah.
No, that's just, I don't know, that's just so good to hear. And I love what you said earlier too about like sometimes we want to just paint this picture of the world that we're doing great and there's nothing wrong going on. And I think there's important to be confident
yes.
and show your best side, and you don't want to air your dirty laundry out or the problems in your business to the entire world. And it's not easy sometimes to go do that and to say, hey, I'm struggling and I could use your help and I've seen you're where I want to be and any advice can you give me? And my experience has been you go to those people that are where you want to be, and not all of them, but most of them are more than happy to even at least go to lunch or share something with you. Maybe not everyone's willing to full-time mentor you, but a lot of people are just willing to give up that information freely.
It's true. And a mentor, mentors are imperative, and they do help get you where you need to be. And George Clooney said it really good. He said, you don't learn from your successes, you learn from your failures. And the more we're willing, not air your dirty laundry, but the more you're willing to say, hey, I screwed up here, this is what I learned from, and then helping each other out. One of my clients, it was interesting. She was being sold by all these businesses. You need this software. You need this software. And she brought me on. I'm like, okay, we got too much software. You're like at infancy.
Yeah.
We're going to run you out of business before you ever started.
Just paying for all the software.
I'm like, ixnay it all. Sales. You got to have clients coming in, and then we can talk about software. But I think the mentorship, like you talked about, it depends on how fast you want to grow. If you want to grow and grow right, find a mentor that can help you.
Yeah, I think it's probably the only shortcut there is at least in business.
Yes.
You can go and figure it out all on your own, or go to someone who's made some mistakes and figured it out and built something successful and can help say, hey, watch out for this. If you do it this way, this is what you're going to find.
Oh, 100%. And then after I got to a certain level, I formed a board. And so for all my companies, we have a board and we meet quarterly. And there's strategically certain people, so it's almost like a mastermind for you.
Yeah, for your business.
But it gets really ugly sometimes because they're pinpointing what you're screwing up on, but it's good. But it's like we strategically place at least 5 people of where we want to go. They are or have been where we want to go, and they show us how to get there. And like insurance, tax advisors, estate planners, coaches, and all those things. And I think that's where mentorship really comes into play. Like anyone you can get on your team that can help you level up, it helps. I wish I would have done a lot earlier because I didn't, and I made a lot of mistakes. Like a lot. Drew, it's embarrassing how many mistakes I made. But, it's a learning process, and I'm grateful for it at the same time.
Well, at the same time, I believe one of the best ways to learn is to make mistakes. So, hopefully there's just you have more wins than you do failures at the end of the day. So, well, as we wrap up, Tiffany, one question we love to ask our guests is, as a leader, how would you want to be remembered by others?
It's a really good question. I'm trying to think of a short answer. That's where I'm struggling.
Long answer's okay.
I want to be remembered as the people that I'm able to impact around me. Not so much me. Don't remember me. Remember the people that were around me and what they've accomplished in their lives. Because that's my vision. I want to impact as many people as possible. And a leader is not a true leader until they show someone how to become a leader, and that leader leads someone else. And so I want to create leaders, and that's my goal.
Oh, that's amazing. You know, it's not just when someone says, hey, you've done something that changed my life, when they're also turning around and people are saying, hey, you've got this chain of like, hey, it comes back to the difference you made a big difference to somebody else.
Well, it's kind of like real estate. I consider real estate generational wealth. You know, it's the golden goose that never stops giving. Mm-hmm. And a true leader is that golden goose that never stops giving either.
Yeah. So great. Well, if you're our listener, like I said, I hope you've taken a lot of notes today. So many great lessons, so many good nuggets. And for those that want to follow you, Tiffany, or connect with you, you said Instagram is the best way to do that, right? Where can they follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, so Instagram, all my social media is the exact same, and my website's the exact same, but Instagram's probably the easiest way to connect with me, and it's Tiffany M. Rosenbaum.
Tiffany M. Rosenbaum.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's just my Instagram handle, and they can contact me anytime.
Well, we'll make sure we put it in our show notes. So.
Thank you.
Thanks again today, Tiffany, for letting us come in and talk leadership with you. This has been really fun. And to our listener, today's the day.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.